Hi, my name is Mark Walker. I'm the co-founder of the Fintech Power 50, and we're here today at Innovate Finance Global Summit, and I have with me the amazing Joanne. Perhaps you give us a quick introduction to our audience, please.
Thanks, Mark. So, yes, I'm Joanne Dewar. I'm CEO of Global Processing Services, which is really the tech behind the tech. We are the issuer processor that's powering a huge number of the fintechs, challenger banks, and e-wallet providers increasingly around the world.
Fantastic, excellent. So let's get the first formalities out of the way first of all. Physical events, back in physical events now. How's it feeling? I'm guessing it's not the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just I'm somebody who loves seeing people, and I think there's so many people actually I've met this morning that I've only met online, and okay. It's you seem to always have the conversation of, oh, you're taller than I expected, but yeah, fantastic to be able to see people face to face.
I'll imagine it's the same sort of thing. We had a lot of the employees that we hired over the lockdown process and everything else, and again, just getting to see them for the first time. GPS has obviously been on quite a journey over the last couple of years. Maybe just give us a couple of the highlights. There was a really big, interesting funding round recently as well. So
yeah, no, I suppose first up in terms of sort of growth and meeting people, I've just been on a trip, a week in Singapore and a week in Australia to meet teams that we've built whilst not being there ourselves. So it's absolutely fantastic to meet our own teams for the first time, let alone the various customers and partners and prospects that we've only been sort of speaking to remotely. Yes, we've had a fantastic sort of 2021. We finished the year in securing a phenomenal investment. We raised $400 million US, and with new partners on board, inclusive of Advent, who are obviously a top 10 private equity company. Actually, I would have thought the leader in the payment space, with Viking Global, who are more of a crossover fund, with Temasek, who are the Singaporean sovereign wealth fund, with Mission OG, which has given us Gene Lockhart as our chairman. Gene was previously, among many positions, he was global CEO, president of MasterCard, president of Bank of America. So, a real, not just industry veteran, he's really a godfather of payments. And then just last week we announced that MasterCard have invested in us as well, which has really completed the pack, having had Visa invest in us 2 years ago. So we really now have got arguably one of the the best shareholder bases in the industry, and what that's given us is a board, a group of investors that fully understand the opportunity in this space, understand that the role that we can play, the quality of our underlying product and technology, and are going to sort of support us all the way in accelerating our own growth journey.
It really is absolutely fantastic news. As you say, having the Visa and the MasterCard duo, if you like, in your arsenal is obviously very, very attractive.
And very rare, rare. So, and what's particularly important as a processor is don't underestimate the technical diligence we go through to get to that point. It really matters what the quality is underneath the lid, and people really value the fact that diligence has happened, and so having that sort of scheme badge approval is very, very powerful.
Absolutely. So let's have a bit of a conversation, discussion. Obviously, with those amazing partners on board, obviously collaboration and working with members of the ecosystem is crucially important to you. What's your sort of take on how to foster that sort of collaboration and how the industry should be working to support that?
So I think there's been a change of approach in the last year or so, and it's really recognising that through the pace of change, fintechs are on a growth journey, and what they need for tomorrow isn't necessarily even on their roadmap today. And so we as an enabler, we support a huge range of different use cases, whether it's challenger banks, whether it's FX provision, whether it's buy now, pay later, open banking, crypto to fiat, just a huge range. And I think the conversations have evolved from the sort of that strict RFP process of, right, we need to find this, and the procurement department's thinking, particularly with incumbent banks, if I can generalize for a minute, rather than sort of the procurement department saying, right, box tick, right, have you got this ISO standard, and do you do this, and do you do that? Actually, finally, they're recognizing that it's about having a conversation, and it's about finding the right partner that can support on a journey. And that's super exciting. So that's exactly where we want to be. A couple of years ago, we were working with one of the UK Tier 1 banks on a digital bank proposition. The whole selection process was done via an intermediary, where we didn't even know which bank we were going to be working with. The contracts were signed, and we actually, we had got the agility. We were able to get a program with live cards into what we call pavement test, before that bank had actually signed us off as a supplier and paid the setup fee. So, so there's very much a sort of, there was an arm's length kind of supplier relationship. Whereas now what we're starting to see is that, okay, that collaboration, that real desire to say, right, how can you actually help us? And that's super exciting, because that's the bit that Fintech's got right from the outset. So really exciting to see that evolve.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the sort of the key things when we talk about relationship building. There's always been this sort of cataclysm between the traditional banking sector and the fintechs. And I guess you've firmly been kind of in the middle of that for quite a while now. And as you say, it's kind of interesting now that you're seeing that there is actually a more of a ability to mesh the two together. Do you think that's come about because of the bank's desire to change, or do you think it's really been pushed by sort of consumer sentiment?
It's probably one drives the other, because the consumers are agitating for features and functionality. They want everything on the it's everything's generation now, everything's on the mobile app. So they're the ones that are driving the ask, and so I think that's then sort of creating that need from the incumbent banks to actually provide a proposition that's going to meet that ask.
Okay, interesting. So, as we were saying earlier, we're here at Innovate Finance Global Summit. You're going to be speaking shortly on stage. I guess a lot of the key themes that we're talking about today is the Khalifa review. Obviously, we're 1 year on now. Has much changed? What's your sort of thoughts on where we are now with regards to that actual report, and how have we moved forward?
Well, I think the first thing to reflect on the Khalifa review was it wasn't just a report. The effort that went in and the level of collaboration that went on to be able to collate the views of the industry there were sort of round tables and working groups for each of the chapters. It was really quite extraordinary, and I wonder on reflection whether it was actually all the better for happening during lockdown, because the number of organisations actually had there was better availability to get to the round table because it was all on Zoom and things. But it was really sort of done in a highly collaborative fashion, and when I read the report myself, I can hear and see where the inputs were then reflected. So that's the first great thing. What I've seen subsequent in activities that have happened to date is that the government and the regulators are really sort of trying hard to adopt and listen and adopt at pace, which is great. The challenge now is just that pace of change. So the new body, the CFIT, the Centre for Finance and Innovation Technology, that should be about to be formed, and we desperately need that as the vehicle to be able to enact a number of change. The danger with the Khalifa report is that because it's a public document, it's effectively created a blueprint for other markets around the world who are also recognising that fintech's top of their agenda and wanting to be able to move forward at pace. So it's really important that we sort of get on with it.
I think that's a really interesting point. Actually, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's sort of given all the crown jewels away or anything like that, but it obviously very detailed analysis, as you said, which has meant other countries that are starting to build on are actually using it as the basis. And I know, as you said, you've been travelling quite extensively. Luckily, now that we're now allowed to out to the Middle East, to Singapore and various other places. Is that a sense that you're getting from those sort of areas, that they really are trying to push forward very, very quickly and strongly with their financial fintech ecosystems?
Absolutely, and there's a follower advantage, and they're able to leapfrog certain things, I think. And I think everyone's been focused on the sort of the three pillars that made the fintech revolution here so successful: of regulation, supportive regulatory environment, the availability of capital, and the availability of talent. Now, those things can be replicated in other markets. What I've been speaking about more recently is actually there's a fourth pillar, which is the knowledge base and the support of the ecosystem, and that's an aspect that the UK is it retains, is still ahead of the rest of the world, and actually that's an ecosystem that the other markets also need to be able to sort of tap into to support them in being able to become really successful.
I think that's a really interesting point, because that's the one thing you can't build overnight, or you can't get done quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the number of different fintech startups that my own team has been involved in. These, I think I use the Carlsberg probably, but there's we've supported more unicorns than any other provider, and I think there's a lot of knowledge in our business that can explain that, and also we've seen successes and we've seen failures, and we can in a lot of cases identify the common threads between those that made it through and have sort of grown astronomically, and those that have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I don't want to keep you up for too long, because I know you're going to go and prepare for your speech, so just want to say thank you very much for joining us, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.